friends, and welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy you're here today because I'm doing a June wrap-up. This is mostly going to be about the 10 slashers I read for Kelsey's summer slasher readathon. She hosted, and I will link her channel down below. I had so much fun. I ended up watching 10 slashers, 9 or 10 slasher movies as well. But yeah, it was just a blast to read so many fun slashers. It ended up being, I want to say, like mostly novellas, but just in general like shorter books. Like I don't think they were over 250 pages, any of the slashers that I ended up reading. And yeah, I just had a blast. And then some other books are like the new horror books that I read at the beginning of June. But getting right into it, the first book I'm going to talk about is Only Psychos by Daniel J. Volpe. You guys know I'm a Daniel J. Volpe fan. And this is his new slasher that came out, I believe in March. This one came out. And yeah, it is disgusting and deplorable and horrendous, and I enjoyed it. This is about a rundown motel during a winter storm, and yeah, people get stranded at this motel, so it switches POVs very quickly. The chapters are very short, and also the owners of this motel is a disgusting family. So yeah, there's a lot going on in this one. I very much loved the twist in this and the ending, and yeah, overall I just really enjoyed it, and I ended up giving this one 3 stars. So the next book I'm going to count as a slasher. It had some slasher vibes in it, but I don't know if it's technically a slasher, and that is Fantastic Land by Mike Bakoven. I listened to this one and I enjoyed the audiobook a lot because of the full cast of characters they got to voice it, and it was really immersive because it's told as a documentary found footage style book about the incidents at Fantastic Land during a hurricane. The employees were trapped there for a month, and it turned into like a hardcore version of Lord of the Flies. And yeah, I liked that aspect of it. It was very immersive listening to the audiobook of this one, and one of the POVs was insanely creepy, and yeah, I was like, oh, that is very eerie and the most slasher vibes I got from it. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. If you like abandoned amusement parks, or like what happened to Six Flags in New Orleans during or after Hurricane Katrina, you would really like this book. And yeah, I highly suggest it if you're into like abandoned amusement park stuff, because it was really interesting, that whole aspect of it. And yeah, I gave it 3.5 stars. The next book I ended up reading was a very short novella. I believe this one was 60 pages, and that is 20th Anniversary Screening by Jeff Strand. This is about a 20th anniversary screening of a slasher. And I forget the name of the slasher actually, but it was like about this slasher, like a carpenter slasher. I ended up watching, what is it, Sleepover Massacre, and it reminded me of this book, because yeah, I read this book before I watched that movie, but it gave me those vibes, but just taking place like in a theater, but also like flashbacks and stuff like that, of the I don't want to say like a copycat, I guess, of this slasher, but it was interesting. I enjoyed it. For 60 pages, I mean, it delivered, I think, and I gave it 3 stars. The next slasher I ended up reading was Camp Slaughter by Sergio Gomez, and I can't believe it took me this long to read this book. This book is so much fun. It is so incredibly dark, but also you keep reading, you're like, yes, because some of the characters in this are unlikable, so when stuff happens to them, you're kind of like, yeah, didn't see that coming. What I didn't like about this book, it's very minor, I didn't like getting the POV of the killer in this. I know it added another layer to it, but I feel like it cusped on to being sympathetic towards the killer, and also less is more, I think. So I could have not used that POV, but overall I really enjoyed this one and gave it 4 stars. If you don't know what this book is about, it's about an abandoned camp where a cannibal lives, and it has a bunch of different POVs. It has people like camping out there, people like exploring the abandoned camp, and then yeah, documentary people for like a YouTube channel, and yeah, it was a blast. I highly suggest this one. The next slasher I read was Tastes Like Candy by Ivy Tholen. This is a carnival themed slasher, I guess. Maybe like new adult YA slasher. This one read really young. It is about some high school students that do a scavenger hunt every year, or seniors do a scavenger hunt in this carnival, Halloween themed carnival. So this is a Halloween book as well. And this group of friends all get picked to go, and they are knocked off one by one. There's some really unique kills in this one, but I just could not get behind the motive of this. It felt insanely ridiculous, and I was laughing. So I don't know if this is like a horror comedy slasher as well, but yeah, I just couldn't take it super serious. Well, I guess you can't take any of these super seriously, but yeah, it just pulled me right out of the story and like all these horrific kills and stuff. But I really liked the imagery. I liked a lot of the rides and stuff because I am such a big Halloween person. I was like, yes, I want to go to this carnival. I know people are being killed here, but I would love to go. And I ended up giving this one 3 stars. The next slasher I read is Long Night at Lake Never by Eric Roman, and this was another camp slasher, but this one is like a conversion camp. So Tyler is sent to a Christian conversion camp from his very conservative parents after they catch him in the act. And yeah, Tyler is one of my favorite characters I read this year. I think I mentioned him very briefly in my mid-year wrap-up freak out tag. He is so quick to come back at those Christians with their Bible verses and stuff, and like, yeah, he has it all memorized. He's like, did you read the actual book? Which is hilarious because I know people like that in real life that have it memorized and can like go back and quote it, and so much respect there for them to just clap back at these psychos this way. And I will say my biggest thing with this one is that it has the back and forth a little too much with the camp counselors and our main characters, like the ones we're rooting for. But I will say when a camp counselor gets it, I thought it was awesome. I was like rooting for the killer. It was so much fun. Or even like the kids that were being like converted and like doing like I guess the camp counselors, like, I don't know, fulfilling what they wanted, the bad guys. So whenever they got killed, it was just so much fun. And yeah, you're really rooting for these kids, and yeah, Tyler, what a great character. It was so good. And yeah, I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I highly suggest checking this one out on KU Kindle Unlimited. And yeah, I had a blast. The next slasher I read is a very short novella, very short. I think this was 60 pages. Triple Axe by Scott Cole. This was the funnest one I think I read. I don't know, they were all fun, but this one, I had so much fun with this one. So this takes place, I guess, like mostly on porn sets, and we follow porn stars, and there is a serial killer that is killing these porn stars, and yeah, it's so funny. The theme of the slashers that I've been reading is like who the bad guys are in these, is very reminiscent to real life right now, and yeah, I just loved it. And actually I just clicked to me pretty recently that Triple Axe, like Triple X, ha ha ha. But there's a lot of terminology in this that I was hilarious. And then the sex scenes that were described during the porn written so non-sexual. It was like business-like. It was like, oh, this maneuver and this maneuver, and it was hilarious, and I had a lot of fun with this, and some pretty unique kills in this and some cool imagery. And yeah, highly suggest checking this one out for a fun time. And yeah, it's on Kindle Unlimited as well, and I gave it 4 stars. The next slasher I ended up reading was another novella, Chopping Spree by Angela Salvini. This is part of the Rewind and Die series, which is, I believe, all on Kindle Unlimited. And this is about a serial killer that is loose in the mall, and it takes another turn. It takes another turn into the capitalism, social commentary aspect of this, and the twist is very interesting, and I enjoyed myself immensely reading this one, and I ended up giving it 3 stars. I'm going to be pretty vague with this one because it is so short, and halfway through you get the twist, and it was fun. It was fun to, read, and I don't want to spoil it. And the next slasher I read is The Summer I Died by Ryan C. Thomas. So this one I would say is probably the least non-slashery next to Fantastic Land. This is more of like a torture survival horror. I would say, yeah, surviving a serial killer. But this one is 200 pages. It is very short, but I did have a tough time getting into it because of the friend character in this, who was very obnoxious. His name is Tooth, and he was very obnoxious, but you know, you still feel bad for him because it was his friend. But yeah, this is about 2 best friends who go shooting into the woods, and they hear a woman screaming, and they decide to be heroes. Never do that. Call 911 beforehand. And yeah, it's not good. It's horrific. This got so incredibly dark and disgusting, and it was so nasty. This is extreme horror, and yeah, it was brutal, but I liked the writing. The writing was fantastic. This is the most beautiful slasher or survival horror writing I've ever read. So yeah, I ended up giving it 4 stars. And the last slasher I ended up reading was another novella called The Clown Hunt by Judith Sonnet. And yeah, this is exactly what it sounds like. It is about a clown hunt, and our main character is I don't know he's a sex worker, and he ends up in a situation, and it's not good. It's not good, and he has to be a hero. And yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I read this one on the reading sprints I did with Lexi. It reads super quickly. The dialogue is written so well. It's so funny, and I really enjoyed it. And I gave this one 5 stars. I love this one. I love the whole premise of this. It's fantastic. If you lived through the 2016 clown sightings, you will enjoy this one immensely. And yeah, the best one I read out of this readathon, hands down. And yeah, I'm so happy I finally got to read it. And also the cover is amazing. I love the cover so much. But those are the 10 slashers I ended up reading for a slasher readathon. I do suggest all of these. I didn't rate any of these less than 3 stars. I genuinely enjoyed all of these. These were super fun to read, and yeah, I think they would all make great summer reads too, because why not? And getting into the new horror books that I ended up reading in June as well. I did do a rating blog on these, so I'm just going to go over the ratings. So Siren Queen by Nebo, I gave 4 stars. Hide by Kirsten White, I gave 4 stars. Boy, oh boy, what a controversial book this one has become. I didn't expect this one to be so divisive when I was listening to it. The Children on the Hill by Jennifer McMahon, I gave 3 stars. From Below by Darcy Coates, I gave 4 stars. Maggots Screaming by Max Booth III, I gave 5 stars. I love this book so much. It is fantastic, and highly suggest if you are into bizarro horror. Yeah, this was one of my biggest surprises this year, and I already talked about it in my mid-year freak out tag as well. And the last two books I'm going to talk about are just kind of random books that I read this month. So I read The Deep by Amakatsu. I listened to this from Libby, and I wasn't a huge fan of it. This one felt like it dragged on and on and on forever. If you don't know, this is about a survivor from the Titanic going on the Britannica as well. This one felt a little convoluted for me. I think it just needed to be a little bit more simple. I'm a big Amakatsu fan too, so this one surprised me that I didn't like it as much, and I ended up giving it 2 stars. And the last book I'm going to talk about is Rose Madder by Stephen King. I ended up listening to this one from Libby as well, but I also own it, and this was rough for me. This one took quite a few attempts to get through, just because of the content, and I am a casual reader of extreme horror, and I had a tough time getting through this one. The opening is so intense. Look up trigger warnings for this one. The main one, domestic abuse and miscarriage. Whew, it was rough, and you hate this villain so much. I wanted to throw my book across the room. I hated reading Norman as a villain. He is awful. Like, Pennywise, you ain't got nothing on this human monster. Honestly, horrible person. Anywho, I made it through it though, and I really ended up enjoying it. I enjoyed where this went. I liked the mix of Greek mythology into this story, and the imagery and how fantastical it got. I really like those elements in it, and it might have been because I did listen to it, and it is a full cast audiobook, and this book goes into audiobooks and readings and stuff, so I think they paid very special attention to that with that. So highly suggest the audiobook for this one, and I ended up giving it 4 stars. Okay, so that is for real the end of my June wrap up. Let me know in the comments down below, have you read any of these books? Are you intrigued to read any of these books? And you guys, have a great day. Bye.